What's up, everybody? Welcome to Heads Up Play, episode 17. We got so much to go over. I feel like we haven't seen you guys in a while. Let me tell you guys, we've missed a lot. I mean, we have a new coach at the University of Alabama, Kalen DeBoer.
Welcome, Kalen DeBoer.
Welcome to Bama Nation, man.
Yes, sir.
We got a lot to talk about today from Alabama's new coaches, stealing two head coaches from non-Power 5 schools. Still pretty big to get the head coach to be an assistant coach. You got that going on. We are ranking today the top 16 coaches in the SEC now. That is kind of final on who's our coach it is. We're going to talk about the NFL playoffs, and we're going to talk a little bit about college basketball as well. Actually watching college basketball in the background. We have Alabama versus Missouri on. Pretty good game so far. But, Sweaty Boy, let's get into it, man. Let's talk about Kalen DeBoer. I mean, last time we talked, we gave our predictions who we thought it would. Me and you both we was hoping it would be Kalen DeBoer, and guess what? We got Kalen DeBoer. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, so we initially filmed like a 20-minute little reaction video. I believe the day of, if not, maybe it was Sunday.
It was the day of. It was the
day of. Yeah, we were ready to put that thing out, and as soon as I started editing, my video was nowhere to be seen. So we apologize for that. Would have been good to have that out there as an initial reaction. But now some more things have opened up regarding the whole coaching staff. When I saw, I guess it was Thursday evening, I think it was what it was, that we were closing in on a deal with Kalen DeBoer. I was ecstatic. He was not my first choice as an Alabama fan. My first choice, like I think most people, was Dan Lanning.
Dan Lanning, yeah.
And that was just because of an initial we've talked about for a long time. This is the guy that we would rather have over, say, a Dabo or, the most realistic option that we think we could get. Obviously, the best option in my mind would be like a Kirby Smart, but no, he's not going away from Georgia. You're not going to get Steve Sarkisian away from Texas. There's too much money in that. The whole deal was Saban was kind of coaching Sark up to be his replacement when he was the OC at Alabama, kind of do like what Bob Stoops did with Lincoln Riley, what Urban Meyer did with Ryan Day, and to just let the legacy to continue to build off of Sark. But the opportunity came for him to go to Texas. You just can't turn that down. I mean, when I look at the top jobs in college football, you might just consider Texas to be the best job with all the money, all the resources, and the lack of pressure compared to, say, in Alabama, right? Yeah. But not to dwell on that too much. My initial reaction when I saw that it was DeBoer, I was pretty ecstatic. I mean, just looking at his record as a head coach going all the way back to NAIA, he won 3 national championships at Sioux Falls.
Yeah.
Only lost 3 games there. He's got a total head coaching record. We talked about it on the last episode, 104-12. His worst tenure as a head coach was at Fresno State. He went 12-6, where majority of those losses were during the COVID year. I think it's an outstanding hire. The dude has just done nothing but win wherever he's at. He is undefeated against both of Sark and Dan Lanning, so that goes to show you.
He's 5-0 against them, but if you really want to get into it, he's 7-0 if you want to include Lincoln Riley. He's a good coach. He's a very good coach. Is he Nick Saban? No, he's not Nick Saban, but like you said, he's a good coach. I'm sorry.
Right. You're good. You look at the now defunct Pac-12. It wasn't, DeBoer's won the Pac-12 Coach of the Year 2 years in a row, both years that he was head coach at Washington. It wasn't Dan Lanning, wasn't it? It wasn't Chip Kelly. It wasn't Lincoln Riley. It was Kalen DeBoer, this no-name from Fresno State, who previously was a offensive coordinator at Indiana, which we'll get into here in a minute. Yep. But, I mean, if I had to rate it, based on the options that we had, I would have to give it a slam dunk A+ higher. I really
I
would.
agree.
That's
I
not me
agree.
being biased. I really just think that man is a great coach, and I'm very excited for the time that he's going to have at Alabama.
No, I agree. Everything that you said is how I feel. Getting on, especially our timeline. I mean, yeah, we'll admit it. We're Bama fans. I'm pretty sure you know that if you listen to the podcast and you know us. On my timeline, Auburn fans. What do they call it? The Husky Harson. Just because he's not from the South. And I credited, one of our favorite, both of ours, because we grew up listening to him on the radio. Now they have a podcast, Next Round Live. They said, and it's very true. I mean, it's very true when he said that, Brian Harson, I'm not trying to, dog Brian Harson, but, they're comparing him to him just because he's not from the South and all that. He had an A+ job at Boise State and did a B+ job. When DeBoer got to Washington was down. Oh God, it was bad. It was bad at Washington. It was
4-8 before he got there.
It was not the team that Chris Peterson left them. It was not.
No.
That team was bad. What was the name? Tim Lake or something like that.
Mm-mm.
He left them in atrocity. He did an A+ job at a B-. I wouldn't even give it a B job.
In terms of Power 5 and where they were at, yeah, that's a B- or a C program, from where it was left.
Went 25-3, won a playoff game against a highly rated Texas team all year long. Oh, excuse me. But I'm telling you, I think this DeBoer guy is a home run hire. I mean, Bama fans, y'all be ready. The air raid is coming to the SEC. Will it be the first? Ole Miss, I feel like, brought it in. But, I'm telling you, we are about to bring this air raid to the SEC. It's about to get crazy offense.
I'm very excited. I when you just look at, again, just the options that we had, right now within the Power 5, really all active head coaches, now there's only 3 active head coaches, possibly only about to be 2 if Jim Harbaugh leaves, that have won a national championship. Right? Am I wrong? Are there any other active head coaches that have won a national championship?
You have Kirby.
You have Kirby, Dabo, Jim Harbaugh. Nick Saban, who's won all those other ones, is gone. Ed Orgeron won in 2019. He ain't coaching.
Jimbo ain't coaching.
Jimbo ain't coaching.
He won a BCS.
Exactly. So, when you look at coaches that have proven they can get to a championship, he won 3 at Sioux Falls. He brought Washington to the national championship in year 2. Even Saban didn't do that. I think he's the best shot. There's some sexier names like a Steve Sarkisian, like a Dan Lanning. But, when you just look at who can flat out coach, man, Kalen DeBoer is that dude. We've been talking about Kalen DeBoer, how good Washington was, in the middle of the season. So yeah. I'm excited. I definitely am. And he's very quickly put together what I think and what I think you think is an all-star staff. I
agree.
He brings over Ryan Grubb, who Alabama really wanted. Nick Saban wanted him as the OC. Instead of Tommy Rees, he was the first choice. When you look at the offensive coordinators in the country, Ryan Grubb is number 1. That dude knows offense, especially the offensive line. So he's bringing Ryan Grubb and the offensive line coach. They won the what's the offensive line award? It's not the Broyles Award. Maybe it's whatever the offensive line award is. Washington won it, and we're getting that coach. So when you bring together that coach and those huge O linemen, everybody at the beginning of the season or preseason for Alabama said that the O-line was going to be the number 1 unit on the team. Ended up being, pretty terrible up until the end. So I'm very excited on that end.
The Joe Moore.
The Joe Moore Award. The Joe Moore Award.
You haven't even mentioned, though, we got the wide receiver coach from Washington.
Yes.
I think he won the best wide receiver coach this year. Romeo Duze from Washington, who will be a guaranteed top 10 pick in the NFL draft. He's a good player. We're getting good coaches. And Sam continued.
Before I go on to the DC, to touch on the wide receiving aspect of it, if I'm a wide receiver, if I'm a guy like a Kobe Prentice or a Jalen Hale at Alabama, who has been kind of sitting in the back burner a little bit to Isaiah Bond and and Burton, who now it's my time. Oh, I'm so excited!
Oh,
Look
yeah,
at what
eating it
what
up.
they
Yeah.
look at what DeBoer and Grubb did with, like you said, Roma Dunze, Jalen McMillan at Washington. I mean, Roma Dunze was a 3-star. This dude was a 3-star, and he's about to be probably the number 2. Many people even saying that he will be the number 1 wide receiver taken in the draft over Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't see that, but I mean, to take a 3-star at Washington and make him the number 2 wide receiver in the draft, it's incredible. So if I'm a certain somebody from Saraland High School, that being
Yeah.
Ryan Williams, I would be really, really, really thinking hard about where I want to go to school. And then
Speaking of Kellen DeBoer, they just brought him out at the basketball game.
I don't have it on right now. I need to turn it on, but
And they brought him out.
I'll watch a highlight of it. And then today it was named a certain somebody from our alma mater, the University of South Alabama, Kane Womack. For those wondering, it is Womack, not Womack.
Womack. Yep. Womack.
Kane Womack is the defensive coordinator at Alabama. What was your reaction? You know, they were speculating it a little bit, you know, midday yesterday. I did not think that would go through, to go from a head coach to even though it's at Alabama, a head coach to an assistant. I just didn't see it, but he made it happen. So what's your reaction to Kane?
I didn't think it was going to happen until I learned that there's a little bit of previous history. Sam kind of talked about it earlier while we was talking. Indiana. He was the OC at Indiana. Well, guess what? Kane was the DC at Indiana in that 2020 season when Indiana had that really good season. And we got Tom Allen paid. They both basically got Tom Allen paid. It's pretty impressive. So apparently they're really good friends. Like when DeBoer went to Texas and played, or not Texas, but went to Louisiana, played Texas, he went over there, brought his family. Like Kane, he said, "I would not do this for any other job, but since it's DeBoer and since it's Alabama, I'm gonna do it." But there's no way it had to be a payday upgrade. I mean, South. I love South. Graduated from South. My wife played volleyball at South. There's no way South has. They don't have money. They don't. I mean, they paid him $110,000. I mean, 110, close $810,000 to be a head coach. Come on, man, you're getting paid more to be a DC. And from what you've heard, maybe $2 million.
Yeah, that's the rumor on the street. I believe Kevin Steele was making 1.9. That's still even double what Kane was making at South.
Yeah.
Word on the street is that he was offered $2 million, which is, I mean, just that's an offer you can't refuse, no matter what your position is anywhere. I mean, $2 million. It really makes me wonder how much they offered T-Rob, Travaris Robinson, which we'll get into that in a moment too. But I mean, I'm excited. Kane Womack brings a unique style of defense to Alabama. He runs a 4-2-5 package. And you and I, we're not, super familiar with, defensive packages and all that. 3-4, 4-3, 4-2-5. It really doesn't make any difference with me. All that matters is it going to work? But Alabama has been running that 4-2-5 defense really for the past 4 or 5 years, so it'll fit well. Kane has kind of nicknamed his defense, his style of defense, what he calls swarm D. It's a heavy emphasis on getting to the ball, not necessarily a lot of blitzes to the quarterback, but just getting to the ball. It forces a lot of turnovers.
Just swarm them.
Yes, exactly. And you can tell when you actually watch them, there is a heavy emphasis of quickly getting to the ball. It forces a lot of turnovers, which will obviously fare well with some of the guys on Alabama, like a Jahad Campbell, a Deontay Lawson. I think they're going to thrive in a Kane Womack defense. And the secondaries are usually good. You look at a guy, Yam Banks, high draft stock for Yam Banks right now, just flipped for, transferred over to Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss. I think he'll do good. But I'm really excited. And then I forgot his name because it just happened, about an hour or two ago. But Buffalo's head coach is also now coming over to Alabama.
Maurice Lungist, or it's L-I-N.
Maurice Linguist.
Maurice Linguist.
Yes, and so he's coming over. He was the head coach at Buffalo, so that's two group of five, or two, head coaching jobs that Alabama has poached, and it hasn't even been a week since the guy was named head coach.
Named coach, yeah.
I mean, this is, if people are going to compare it to Saban, right? So just keep that in mind. But if this was a staff at, say, Texas A&M or Auburn, I mean, people would be calling this like an A-plus staff.
They would.
They really would.
I think it is an A-plus staff. I mean, I'm not trying to be a homer and all. I'm not trying to be biased. I truly think this is probably the best, like, coach rounded out with coordinators position in the whole SEC. I really do. I probably put up there Kirby in Georgia, but I'm telling you, I really like this mixture.
I think it's better. I think it's better than. I really do. I know that's crazy to say, but I mean, Mike Bobo at Georgia. That's a good. That's a good offensive coordinator. He ain't Ryan Grubb. No. Now Travaris Robinson and then Kane Womack will have to decide. But now I think Georgia's defense. They've got multiple guys with T-Rob now. They've got Glenn Schumann as co-DC as well, and then of course. Will Muschamp sitting in the back burner too.
Yeah, I mean, so, they got a lot.
But it's a star-studded staff. It's a star-studded staff of really not stars. Guys that, hell, most Alabama fans didn't even know who Kalen DeBoer was 6 days ago. Nobody knows who Kane Womack is unless you're familiar with South Alabama. So, let
me ask you, you talk about the fans. Do you have any advice for the fans, letting them know this is not Nick Saban? If we lose 2 or 3 games, don't be ready to flip ship. If we're not in the top 2 in recruiting, don't be ready to flip ship. Just because our coach was for 17 years an alien, he was not from this world. He was different. Don't rule out what Kalen DeBoer is going to do. I mean, a 9-3 season is still a good season. I mean,
absolutely
finishing top 7 in the recruiting class, still a good recruiting class. Just because you're not number 1 or 2, don't mean, all right, well, let's get rid of them.
Yeah, I think if you're an Alabama fan, like the two of us, the expectation cannot be compete for a national championship every year. That's his expectation. That's the player's expectation, right?
Yeah.
But if you're a fan, you have to think, okay, reasonable expectations based on where Alabama is at as a program and the track record of Kalen DeBoer. I think it's not unreasonable by any means to think we can't compete for an SEC championship at the very least every single year, beat Auburn. That before Nick Saban, the whole goal was to beat Auburn, right?
That's all it was. The fear of the thumb.
Fear of the thumb. If you can beat Tennessee, if you can beat Auburn, if you can compete for an SEC championship just about every year, Kalen DeBoer is going to have a long run at Alabama. But I think it's going to be better than that. That's going to be the expectation to me, but I think he's going to be competing for national championships just about every year. I really do.
I agree. It's just Bama fans cannot, not everybody can go to LSU, Tennessee, and Georgia and beat all 3 of them. Like, just when we I'm just saying, if we lose to Tennessee this year, please, Bama fans, please do not be ready to throw this man overboard. If we lose to Auburn, please do not be ready to throw this man overboard. We've been here before. We've lost to these teams before with Nick Saban. Just because it happens in the first year don't mean that it's going down here. Just please be patient with this coach.
That's all I would say is literally just patience. Do not throw the man off a cliff, as you just said, after the first loss. I expect, even though it's at home, expect to lose to Georgia, on September 28th. The tides, and no pun intended, tides are changing. But, I'm still very excited. This is the most excited I will have been for an Alabama season in years, even though Nick Saban is not the head coach. I'm just excited just to, at the very least, even though it may be a little bit of a downgrade, just to see something new, a new offensive style.
It's truly going to be different. We've talked about it in the past. No more CBS Sports for SEC. No more 14 playoff. No more Nick Saban. It truly is like Alabama left everything in this past year. Texas, Oklahoma comes in. It truly is going to feel different. But for a good way though, not in a bad way. It's change. Change is good. Change is good. I'm not trying to get emotional. Change is very good. Change is needed once in a while. Saban's old.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So what do you think, Saban? So Saban has come out and said he did an interview with Reese Davis the day after he announced his retirement. He said that Greg Byrne offered him to have an office in Bryant-Denny Stadium, and he said he's going to keep working. Which Nick Saban is just wired that way. He's going to work until the day he's going to do something productive till the day he dies. I think, right? What do you think about him still remaining in the program, having a hand in it? How involved do you think he should be? How involved do you think he will be? Kalen DeBoer said that he wants one thing a day, and I love that. I love that. He wants one thing a day at least from Nick Saban as far as how he can better the program or better the team, right? I think that's great. But I don't want Saban to be too involved. As much as we don't want Saban.
That's my thing. Like Saban, we appreciate you, buddy. You've helped us out, but don't come in there every day and say, "No, you need to do this." Kind of like remind you, I built this place, kind of thing. Like it's one of those.
And I don't think he will. I do think that having the office in Bryant-Denny as opposed to, say, the football facility, that's a good distance between each other. I don't think he's going to be down his throat left and right. And I really don't think he's going to spend much time there anyways. I think he's going to be down playing golf in Jupiter, Florida,
To be honest, he'd probably be on the road with College Game Day.
yeah, that's true. I think it'll be interesting to see if he or Pete Carroll or both join College Game Day. But one of the big aspects to changing a head coach, changing all the coordinators, having a major haul off basically is trying to keep the roster together.
Yeah.
And with the transfer portal,
that was our biggest thing we talked about. We knew, everybody knew it was going to happen. And
it's kind of a terrible situation because teams that their coaches leave, that opens up a 30-day portal window for those players past the regular transfer portal window. The regular transfer portal is closed right now, but Alabama players, Washington players, Arizona players, now that Jed Fish is the head coach at Washington, and I believe San Diego State and I guess Buffalo, they're the only teams in South Alabama that you can choose from, right?
Yeah.
But all those other schools, Georgia, Texas, Ohio State, Michigan, Notre Dame, Florida State, they can all come poach out of Alabama's pocket, but Alabama can't go into theirs.
I think that's bullcrap. I think that's so bogus. They want to be let's go full portal, but then we got to have some rules. Like if this is going to be the rule, come on guys, like y'all can do better than this. This is just,
right.
I truly think, and I've heard other people talk about it, it's getting so big with this NIL deals, the trust. You really got to have a face. You got to have a Rob Manfred, a Bud Siegel, Adam Silver. You have to have a face. You have to have a commissioner because it's getting out of control now.
There has to be a rule maker, somebody to, and who knows, maybe Nick Saban is the man for the job.
Maybe Nick Saban, or maybe Greg Byrne. It's got to be an athletic director. Speaking of talking about athletic directors, I don't know if you saw, huge today, huge.
Ross Bjork.
Yes,
Texas
Ohio
A&M.
State gets Texas A&M's athletic director.
Oh, it's confirmed he is going there. I knew that it was.
He is going.
Oh,
that's
do you
huge.
think that is a lateral move with the resources that A&M has compared to Ohio State? Even though Ohio State has better success,
bigger name, yeah.
I would say it's either a lateral move, if not just a little bit better of a job.
I either look at it as a lateral move or I better cover my own ass because I'm about to get fired.
Could be. Yeah, if this is Mike Elko, and we're going to, like you said earlier at the beginning of the show, we're going to give our top 16 head coaches in the SEC. If this Mike Elko deal is not good, heck.
Because he's already 0 for 1 with the Jimbo Fisher deal. And he had to bite the bullet on that. I truly think this could have been well, crap, if I keep messing up on this, I might need to get out of here.
Yeah.
The basketball's not looking good so far right now. They brought Buzz Williams from Virginia Tech. He ain't doing too hot at A&M. It's not looking too good. It looked like maybe I need to jump on over there.
You're right. I mean, it's the amount of money that Texas A&M has spent, and it has not paid off. It's pretty incredible. But back to the transfer portal, Alabama, a big name that we have been focusing on the past few days is Caleb Downs, freshman safety, will be a sophomore this coming year. Just an incredible safety. It would be huge to lose him. He has a relationship. There originally was talk about him being in talks with Ohio State. That has dwindled now. Now it's basically, if he enters the transfer portal, he will likely be a Georgia Bulldog.
He's from Georgia. I mean,
he's from
loves
Georgia.
T-Rob. I mean, it makes
Kirby knows him well. Yeah.
Yes.
But I've been checking my phone every now and then all day today. Kane Womack was announced DC last night. I figure, knock on wood as an Alabama fan, if Caleb Downs was to get in the portal, he probably would have done so by now. Now, I say that, and he could get in the portal as soon as this episode ends, but that's where we're at. But a confirmed name, no longer on the Alabama roster, Isaiah Bond, who was the number 2 wide receiver on the team, number 1 being Jermaine Burton. Bond, of course, had a great game in the SEC championship game. He was the one who caught the 4th and 31 Gravedigger play against Auburn.
Yeah.
His name would have been etched in Alabama lore had he stayed, but he has transferred to Texas. Steve Sarkisian, Quinn Ewers. What is your thoughts on this? We can talk about the Lamborghini thing.
It's so NIL deal. He comes out and says it's all about business. And then there's a video that goes around. He has girls in skimpy bikinis.
Feeding them grapes and stuff. Yeah.
Feeding them grapes. I was like, bro, you're 19 years old. You're basically famous because of one catch against Auburn. You didn't really do much all season. Because our wide receivers are so down. My God, it's bad on how bad Alabama's wide receivers are. But you take a picture in the Lamborghini. They ask him, they said, is it did your transfer have anything to do with Nick Saban? Is it 100%? That's why he left. But there was a quote I can't find. He kind of made a slight dig at Jalen Milroe.
Yeah, he did. I can't exactly remember what he said. And I mean, to be fair, Quentin Ewers is a better passer than Jalen Milroe, so I have no doubt that Isaiah Bond will get more receptions at Texas than he would at Alabama. But it also came out that Kalen DeBoer tried to reach out to Isaiah Bond.
Tried to reach out.
Just gave him a phone call, at least try. And Isaiah Bond didn't even return the phone call. Right?
It's about it's money. It's all about. That's all it's about. It's about the money.
And we wouldn't be sitting here saying it's so NIL deal had he not posted on Snapchat a picture of him in the driver's seat of a Lamborghini in Austin, Texas. I mean, that just goes to show, and I do think that there's an ego aspect to it when you show him, with the video of the girls fanning him and feeding him grapes, and he's in a Lamborghini. Obviously, he's got some ego to him. He acts
like he's damn Odell Beckham or someone like that. He's established. That's my thing.
And he is a good wide receiver, but I mean, it's not like he caught over 1,000 yards at Bama. I mean, Jermaine Burton was ahead of him. So I really, I'm not too angry about it.
Only had 4 touchdowns. Bro, chill out. You're not that dude. You're not that guy, pal.
Yeah. So, and I don't know. I would have at least heard Kalen DeBoer out for half a second. I mean, for what he did at Washington. We talked about it earlier with the receivers.
With Romeo Duze, yeah. It's just that was just ignorant. But yeah, I think it's time. Let's get into our top 16 coaches of the SEC.
All right.
I'm about to say, before we kind of get into this, did you see today Jim Harbaugh did interview? I do kind of want to talk about this because I think it's hilarious. Yeah. He wants to, if he stays at Michigan, he said in his contracts, he wants to be immune. Not immune, but he wants immunity from whatever happens to him at Michigan. So you're just admitting you cheated. Let me just admit.
One, that's sort of admitting you cheated. But 2, it's also what can Michigan do about that? Michigan writes the contract. They can't control what sanctions the NCAA or the Big Ten put on you. So I don't really understand that. I don't think that that's a feasible option. I do think I'll give it 55-45 in favor of him going to the NFL and
I
probably to
agree.
the Chargers. I think he probably will, but it's not that much. And if he does, I don't think it's going to be really quick. I think it'll probably be closer to the Super Bowl if that's announced.
And
So,
and
but
I'll,
if he does leave, oh my goodness, the chaos has already been crazy with Alabama coaching search. Imagine they'll probably just promote Sharon Moore, but I mean, if they get like a Brian Kelly, then that opens up
Oh,
LSU. Holy crap!
yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree. Now, before we go, I kind of want to I'll make a bet with you. If the Atlanta Falcons hire Bill Belichick, I will shave my head on live television.
Okay, okay,
I
we'll make a
do.
bet. What is your out of 10, 1 out of 10, or 1 to 10? What's your confidence level that he
You know,
will be the head coach?
they've been saying all off season that like Bill Belichick's going to be the head coach of the Falcons. I just don't believe it
Have they?
because
I think the
they interviewed,
NFL.
they interviewed and all. That's just
Well, I guess the NFL, I think NFL teams must be required to announce, who they've interviewed because like they went on Twitter and said we have interviewed,
they have to announce who they
and yeah,
interviewed and all
Chargers
that.
did that with Harbaugh. So
Well, it comes
have
out
they
because
have they said they've interviewed anybody else?
they've interviewed a bunch of people because
I got
they
you.
have to make it public. Like, hey, we request to interview. Let's say I'm the Ravens, and they went in and they interviewed the co-defensive coordinator and the defensive line coach. We request to interview Anthony Weaver. Okay, well, we'll give you permission to interview him, kind of thing like that, while we're
I got
waiting
you.
to play. But let's get into
So
coaches. Top 16.
all
Top
right,
16.
how do we want to do this? I have
Let's
my
start
top
from
16. You want to
let's
do
start from
like
the bottom.
okay,
Let's start from the
I
bottom.
okay. All right, so I'll say my 16, you do your 16.
Okay.
We'll do it that way. All right. My number 16, no surprise, I'm sure he's your number 16 too, or very close, is Clark Lee of Vanderbilt.
That's my 16.
I mean, he might be better than we're giving him credit for, but I mean, you're just not going to be able to do much at Vandy. I have Clark Lee.
I have Clark Lee. Let's do this. Let's do 16, 16, 15, 15, like we both say are at the same time.
Okay, all right.
Clark Lee's my 16. Who's your 15?
Number 15, Sam Pittman.
I have Jeff Libby from Mississippi State.
You have Jeff Libby? Okay.
Jeff
Libby is my
14.
Coach.
My 14 is Sam Pittman. I have Sam Pittman at 14.
All right. So the reason I have Pittman at 15 instead of Lebby, I know Jeff Lebby's kind of unproven. This is his first year, but Sam Pittman, I mean, gosh, everything that he's done aside from that first season there has just been atrocious. We thought he was going to be fired. This year they've said that he's going to keep him. So I have no. I think that I don't think they'll win 3-4 games.
It's going to be rough for Sam Pittman, but it's not his fault though. Let me tell you why. He's never been a coordinator. He was an offensive line coach at Georgia. Like, I hate when they hire coaches that's never been a coordinator. Like, what are you expecting?
I guess, but he's a head coach now. So
he's not gonna do good. Like, I don't know what you're expecting. Yeah, give me Sam Pittman at 14. I do think Jeff Lebby will jump up in the list. It's just this year one at Mississippi State after Zach Arnett kind of nuclear bombed Mississippi State after
I agree.
Beach. But
number 13, I got Shane Beamer.
I have Billy Napier.
Okay, Billy Napier is my 12.
I have Shane Beamer 12. So the reason why I have Billy Napier at 13, he had that first game against Utah in his first ever game at Florida. Beat Utah. Anthony Richardson, this AR-15. He's the greatest quarterback. He skyrockets a little bit, but then they kind of crash a little bit. Florida, it's kind of unfortunate. You had a top 10 recruiting class just dropped. These last 5 games of the 2024 season, ugly.
I think I have Napier above Beamer because I think Shane Beamer, I don't think he's an okay head coach. I think he's probably better in a coordinator position or maybe the head coach of a group of 5 team, say a South Alabama type team, but he just He's done okay with, say, Spencer Rattler, but I do think Napier is slightly better than him. Keep in mind, Napier had success at Louisiana,
Yeah.
Lafayette, now just Louisiana, and he just hasn't found his way at Florida. He's recruited pretty well. Obviously he had that really good class, and that kind of blew up there at the end near signing day. But I think Napier, while I think he's at the bottom of the barrel, I do think that he's better than Beamer.
The reason why I have Beamer above Napier is because Beamer kind of fixed Spencer Rattler. Spencer Rattler was so bad at Oklahoma. That's the only reason why I have him above Napier.
Let me tell you, Florida, while it's still fresh in my mind, made a big mistake, I think. They should have gone ahead and fired Billy Napier this year because Jed Fish, who is now the head coach at Washington, took that great Arizona team to their bowl win. Is a Florida guy. He played under Steve Spurrier. You knew he would have came, and now you got to deal with probably more turmoil. But
Florida's been making butthead moves.
Terrible,
this is when that list gets crazy. I think
this is probably where we're going to differ more, is here in the middle. My number 11, you're not going to agree with this, is Bob Stoops.
What? Mark Stoops.
Excuse me, his brother.
Wow.
Mark Stoops.
Wow.
I have Mark Stoops at 11.
I have 11 Mike Elko.
Mike Elko. Okay. I figured you would have had Elko higher.
Tell me why you have Stoops at 11.
Okay, I have Stoops at 11 because I get it. It's Kentucky. I get it's a basketball school. The resources for football are not the same as a Georgia. But I just figured, he's been there forever. He's the longest tenured coach in the SEC now. I just figured he would have had a better season. We hype up Kentucky almost every year. They seem to have one good season. They look really good at the beginning, and then they tumble. They end up going 7-5, maybe 8-4, and that's a winning season for them, right? We've always kind of wondered, oh my goodness, what could Mark Stoops do? If he had the resources of a Texas A&M. I just don't see it. I think there's a reason that Texas A&M, granted, Texas A&M has made some dumb decisions just like Florida, but I think there's a reason that they kicked him off that plane on the tarmac and sent his ass back to Kentucky. I really do. I can't imagine him stepping into a role at a high end program like an Alabama or a Georgia and being successful. I really don't.
I have Mark Stoops. So I have Mike Elko 11. I'll get into why I think Mark Stoops had that pick. I like Elko at 11. I think Elko, what he did at Duke was chef's kiss. I think Duke's kind of like Kentucky. It's a basketball school. Not a lot of people can do much at Duke. Duke, I think, is harder to get into Kentucky. With it being, it's out of the Power 5. It's one of the smartest schools, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to recruit to Duke is hard. He was able to do. He recruited a boy from Fairhope, Alabama, to be his quarterback all the way at Duke. And Duke rarely wins. He did a good job at Duke. I think he's an A&M person. He loves A&M. He was there under Jimbo when the one good year they had at A&M. I think he's going to be a very good hire. He'll bring back that defense at A&M. He's not as expensive as Jimbo Fisher. That's also a plus for Texas A&M. But that's why I got him at 11. Now, my 10, we might be at the tie at 10. 10, I have Brent Venables from Oklahoma.
10, I have Brent Venables from Oklahoma. This is the first one that we are the same on.
And I agree. I hate Brent Venables. I think he's so overrated. I think he'll get fired this year. I'm going to be honest.
Oh, I don't know about that. I think he's an okay head coach. I think he's kind of building something at Oklahoma. I think that he'll bring them a national championship. No, I don't even think he'll bring them close to an SEC championship. But, he did beat Texas last year. He did well with Dylan Gabriel. I think he's making some good moves. He did bad his first year. He's done better his second year. I think Brent Venables was a great DC at Clemson. So, I've got him at 10. I think he's better than the guys that I have below him, of course. But he's just outside this next echelon of coaches. And I know you're about to disagree with my next one too.
I definitely think 10. Let me talk about Brent Venables. I think Brent Venables is going to go 6-6. I think Oklahoma's going to be terrible next year. They have no quarterback coming back. Dylan Gabriel's gone. Jeff Lebby, who was the OC at Oklahoma, he's gone. I mean, I truly think, because Jeff Lebby wasn't there the first year of his tenure. He was at Ole Miss. He comes over, gets Dylan Gabriel, makes him look good. Dylan Gabriel goes to Oregon. Jeff Lebby goes to Mississippi State. Shane Beamer gets a tough schedule at Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma goes 6-6. I don't think they're good at all. I'm not high on Brett Venables. He is only up there just because the bottom half, in my opinion, is low. The bottom half is low in the SEC.
That's where I'm at with him.
All right, let's go to 9. My 9, I have Hugh Freeze.
Okay. My 9 is I believe, number 11, Mike Elko. I have Mike Elko at number 9. I like Mike Elko. I agree with what you said about, what he did at Duke. It is a tough place to win at Duke. For him to do what he did, he's got a very short head coaching record. He's 16-9, so that's not fantastic, but for it to be that way at Duke, I think that's fantastic. I think people really, really underestimate how hard it is to coach at Duke. I think Texas A&M made not a great hire, but a good hire. Had some really good defenses under Jimbo Fisher there when he was the assistant or when he was defense coordinator at A&M. So I've got him at 9.
Okay,
so,
I have Hugh Freeze at 9.
Give me your take on the Freeze warning.
And Hugh, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it because I like Hugh the Pimp. I do like Hugh the Pimp. I'm a big Hugh Freeze. I do like Hugh Freeze. When Auburn made this hire, I was a big advocate saying that's the best hire Auburn could have for this position. It's just he's not better than my top 8 coaches. And let me tell you why. If this was back in 2015, oh yeah, you'd been top 5. I mean, beat Nick Saban back-to-back years with Ole Miss. Just had the number 1 recruiting class. Hugh Freeze was at the top of the world. And then he got a credit card, and then we figured out what happened with that. But Hugh Freeze, first season, me and you both said Auburn wasn't going to be great. But God, I mean, you lose to New Mexico State your first season, and I know you're going to say, well, Saban lost. I get that. But I mean, your second year, you do a whole coaching staff change. You fire half of your coaching staff. You don't find an offensive coordinator, so now you're taking over offensive coordinator position. You lose one of your quarterbacks to South Carolina, Robbie Ashford. You keep Peyton Thorne. God only knows why you keep Peyton Thorne and don't go get a quarterback in the portal. And you get Charles Kelly, who is from Alabama. He's a good recruiter. But my God, he was at Colorado this year, and I love Deion. I'm a big Deion guy more than anybody. That defense was atrocious. Oh my God.
It was worse. It was worse. The worst defense in FBS. Let's be real.
But you see what I'm saying? Like, most coaches do not take over the offense in year 2. I mean, Gus Malzahn did that, and you saw what happened. Gus got fired. I mean, this is kind of like I have no other. I mean, literally, Sam. The person they was talking about bringing in for OC was Ned Luke, the big fat boy from Ole Miss.
I remember old Ned. I see. I will get into old Hugh the Pimp here in a minute. All right, my number 8, Josh Heupel.
Ooh.
I have Josh Heupel number 8, and I'll tell you why. I think Josh Heupel is a good coach, but man, after he beat Alabama in 2022, people were like saying he was like one of the best coaches in college football at that point. He rode heavily on the back of Hendon Hooker. I mean, we thought Joe Milton would be pretty good. He was not. The OC now the head coach the OC in 2022 is now the head coach at USF, who has done very good there. And I don't think Heupel was all that. I think he's pretty good. I think he's good for Tennessee. He brought them their first win against Alabama in 15 years, right? But I need to see more from Josh Heupel in order for me to have him jump some of the people ahead of him on my list. Who's your number 8?
My number 8, and you had him at 11. I have Mark Stoops.
Okay.
At number 8. I think Mark Stoops, you kind of say, well, good as Kentucky. I think he's done a great job. I mean, nobody's ever won at Kentucky besides the name of Paul Bear Bryant. Nobody's ever won at Kentucky ever, ever. Like nobody wins at Kentucky. Like he's done great. I mean, for them to win, 8 games here, 9 games there, occasional 7. Like I think it's just a good coach. If he I'm a big advocate. If he can do better at like let's say Auburn gave him. If he had Auburn's resources, I think he would win. I just do. I truly believe that. If he would have got the Texas A&M job, I do think he would have been a better person than Mike Elko, and I would argue that with anybody. But no, I'm a big Mark Stoops person. That's my number 8.
Okay, all right. Number 7. Now we're getting into the meat.
Yep.
I would have had him after 2022. I would have had him way lower on my list.
I agree.
But with the resurgence,
we're about to agree on something. Yeah.
I'm drinking the Kool-Aid on Eli Drinkwitz. I've got Drink at number 7. I loved what he did at Missouri this year. I'm a little bit skeptical to rank him any higher simply because of this being the only season that he's really had that well. But I mean, man, Missouri was great this year, and they dominated Ohio State. So give me Drink at number 7. I think he's going to continue to be good.
I love Eli Drinkowitz. He's getting a heck of a wide receiver room. He, in my opinion, probably has the best wide receiver coming into the next year. And Luther, I think.
Luther Burden.
I mean, they're good. I mean, they shut down Ohio State, shut them down. I loved it. Loved watching. They wasn't even our top 3 SEC team, and they're shutting down their second best Big Ten. Love that. But I love Eli Drinkowitz. You're right. If it was last year, he might have been number 3rd. He was on the hot seat. Like, he was getting fired this year. Like, he was at App State. He was the coach at App State when App State was the App State. But I love Eli Drinkowitz. So let's get into number 6. This is when it gets fun. My number 6. Give me Josh Heupel.
I know you have a soft spot in your heart for Josh Heupel. You always have.
I do, and that's saying something because I hate Tennessee. I really hate Tennessee.
Why do you like Josh Heupel? To put him at 6.
I think he has a really good offense, dude. Yes,
he does.
He ran on Hendon Hooker. Tennessee's my surprise team next year. Watching them against Iowa in the bowl game with that young quarterback coming up. What's his name? Nico
Iamaleava.
Oh boy, that reminds me.
Yeah, he was good.
I mean, they beat him 35-0, and Iowa was in the Big Ten championship game. I really like this Tennessee team coming in next year. Joe Milton, how do I say this? He probably had the best arm in college football, but my God, he had no accuracy.
Yeah. See, that just makes me wonder. It's like, okay, your really only good year was with Hendon Hooker and all those wide receivers, and the OC, Alex Golish, is no longer with you. The first year that you'd have without Hendon Hooker and Alex Golish, you went, what did they go? 8-5, 8-4, something like that?
8-4, yep.
So that's why I would have had him higher on my list if they won another game or 2 this season, but that's where I've got Heupel. So my number 6, and we talked earlier before the episode, you said you were skeptical of even putting him in the top 10. You ended up putting him barely in your top 10.
Yeah.
I have Hugh Freeze at number 6. I know the results of this past season, but I also know the results of his success at Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, the only active head coach in college football right now to have beaten the greatest head coach of all time, Nick Saban, more than once, it ain't Kirby Smart, it's Hugh Freeze, and he did it in back-to-back seasons.
He did.
So, and then, of course, he took his hiatus for some personal reasons, we'll say. Bring out that cane, bring out the walking stick. Now, I'm not going to say that he's the smartest guy in the room, considering he used a company phone for his personal reasons, but whatever. I think he's a heck of a coach. He did great at Liberty. I do think that he's making some weird choices that you talked about earlier with, some of the hires and some of the moves that he's made and some of the Like, why in the world are you keeping Peyton Thorne? I have no clue, but I do think he's an offensive guy, and he had one of the best defenses in the country last year.
I agree.
I don't know how that happened. So I've got Hugh at number 6. Depending on the results of this season, he may drop lower, but I still think Freeze wanting, and he's been recruiting his butt off recently. I will give him that. So that's my number 6.
Let me tell you before we move on. I pulled up Tennessee's schedule. I told you I like Tennessee next year. They scare me.
Okay.
This is a schedule. They can only lose really 2 games. They play Chattanooga, North Carolina State, Kent State, at Oklahoma, at Arkansas, Florida, Alabama, Kentucky, Mississippi State, at Georgia, UTEP, at Vandy.
Yeah, they'll be good. That might if Iamiliava plays well, that might be a playoff team. I didn't do a deep dive on their schedule.
I'm telling you, Tennessee's scared. That's why I like Josh Heupel. 5. I think we're going to be in agreement at 5. I think
we'll be in agreement for all these. I really do.
Give me 5 Lane Kiffin. Only, and I'll explain when I explain my number 4. I have Lane Kiffin 5. I think Lane Kiffin is a great offensive-minded coach. Defense always slacks a little bit with Lane. Lane's always, kryptonite's always been Alabama. Ole Miss has had a good team the last 2 or 3 years. 1 loss, 2 losses. Always come against Alabama. But I truly think this is the year Lane Kiffin kind of steps it up. The transfer portal has been very beneficial for Lane. He's kind of brought the air raid to the SEC. He was the first one that brought the air raid to the SEC. You know, with Jordan Tamau, Matt Corral. He's had good quarterbacks at Ole Miss. I truly believe, though, this next year with Jackson Dart, like, this is Ole Miss's year. If they make the playoffs, I wouldn't be shocked.
With it going to 12 teams, absolutely not. I think they'll probably still lose a game or 2. But I agree. I have Kiffin at number 5 as well. There was talk about him, going to Alabama. He loves – I don't know if he loves Alabama, but he definitely loves Nick Saban and what Nick Saban did for him. Has a ton of respect for the Alabama program. We can get into that, though. I agree. I think what Kiffin has done in the portal has been just nothing short of amazing. I mean, he's gotten some big names, man. How I don't know how he talks to them, because it's not like Oxford, Mississippi, and Ole Miss has some crazy facilities that he could show off. I really don't know. That just goes to show how well he's been recruiting that portal. And he has had really good quarterback play. Like you said, he's struggled defensively a little bit. But, I mean, I've got Kiffin at number 5. And at number 4, we may differ between 3 and 4. But I think we're going to be together. At number 4, I have Steve Sarkisian at number 4.
That's who I got at 4. I only put Steve over Lane because Steve has been to the playoffs instead of Lane. That's the only reason why. If Lane made the playoffs, I probably would put Lane over Steve, but Steve's been there. He didn't win, but he's been there.
Now, that you bring up a good point. However, one could argue, due to the resources differences between Ole Miss and Texas, I mean, that's a stark contrast in what you can recruit. And, I mean, you play in a tougher – the Texas had the benefit of playing in the Big 12. Now they're going to the SEC. But I agree. I do have Sark at number 4 too. I think I think Kiffin is one of the best offensive minds in the game. I think Sarkisian is the best offensive mind in the game. I mean, what he can do with the quarterback and wide receivers is insane. So really, I got him at 4.
When he came back from the Falcons and came back to Saban, he was a different play. He was a different coach. I don't even know how to
absolutely. Absolutely. And he had his troubles, with the alcohol. I remember he got up on at USC, it was like a pep rally or something, and he was all drunk. He's a totally different coach, totally different man, really. And it's all because of the GOAT. I got Sark at 4. And at number 3, I think we're going to be in agreement going forward. Number 3, I got Brian Kelly.
I got Brian Kelly, number 3. I think Brian Kelly, he don't get talked about enough, in my opinion. I think he's a very good coach. He's been in the national championship a couple, and I was debating, do I put my number 2 or put Brian Kelly number 2? I mean, Brian Kelly's been in the national championship twice. He's been blown out against Alabama both times, but he's done well at Notre Dame. He won 10 games the first year at LSU. He didn't had a Heisman winner his second year at LSU. He's done pretty good. I mean, to LSU standard, you know what I mean? Like most teams, I mean, he's done very well with himself. I'm very excited to see how LSU does year 3. I do think though it's going to be a little bit of a nosedive, just because they don't really have a quarterback coming in next year. It's not going to. I don't know. I'm not big on LSU next year.
I'm not either. One, the defense this past season was atrocious. I mean, terrible defense for SEC standards, especially LSU, who prides themselves traditionally on defense.
And you're right. I mean, they had maybe one of the worst. If Colorado didn't, LSU had the worst defense.
Yeah,
had the best offense. It was weird. They had some of the best offense, but the worst defense. It was weird.
But the majority of that offense was due to Jaden Daniels, and he ain't coming back. So no. I agree. I think I'm a little low on LSU, but I do think Brian Kelly is a heck of a coach. I mean, he's brought Notre Dame to the playoffs. He took them to a national championship. Like you said, got blown out. Got blown out again by Alabama in the playoffs. I think it was 2020.
Yeah.
In the semifinal. But I mean, he's done well for LSU standards. He's been great in the portal. He's been great recruiting, even though he's not a Southern guy. He didn't know. I don't even know if he probably had ever even been to Louisiana prior to going to LSU. But I think just based off of consistency, being able to consistently win, Brian Kelly's up there. I think he's better than Sark. He's better than Kiffin, but he's not better than who we have to put it in number 1 and who we think should be number 2, which I think both of us agree number 2 has to be Kalen DeBoer, and that may be Bama coming out in us.
I think it's Kalen DeBoer number 2. I mean, you saw what like we've talked about. He's 112 and he's 100. What is he? 102 and 12. He's 25 and
12. Yeah.
He's 25 and 3 at Washington. He went to the national championship his second year at Washington. I mean, my God. I mean, I don't know what else. He went 4-8 before he got there, and then he went 9-3 and won the Alamo Bowl. Went to the national championship, beat Texas. I mean, 7-0 against Lincoln Riley, Steve Sarkisian, and who am I thinking? Dan Lanning. I mean, whooped. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. When Oregon plays Washington that second time, they're gonna whoop Washington. They're gonna whoop. No, he whooped them twice.
And he was whooping Texas in the Sugar Bowl up until the second half. Like, Texas had to make it a game there in the second half. It was not close to start off.
I mean, it's obvious. And if it wasn't for him, Tom Allen would not have got paid.
And you've mentioned it before, I think on the last episode, how many times he's won those big games while having the second best roster on the field.
My gosh,
I mean, you look at like he didn't have the players that Texas had, and he whooped Texas. He didn't have the players that Oregon had. He beat them twice. So, and he's consistently gotten to championship levels. I mean, you have to give him the benefit of the doubt coming over to the SEC that, I mean, he's going to continue to coach very, very well. I have to have him at number 2. I really do. I know it's a name that people, prior to 2 weeks ago had no idea who he was, but I mean, I got to put him at number 2. I hope people don't think that we're being biased on that. And at number 1, I mean, who else? 2-time back-to-back national championship winning head coach. Saban 2.0, basically.
Willie.
Greg Schiano. Kirby Smart is most definitely number 1.
I mean, like,
until somebody can
explain it. Do we even have to explain Kirby? I mean, he's the most Nick Saban-like. I don't even know how. We don't have to explain that one.
We don't have to go into detail on that. I would be shocked if Georgia is not the preseason number 1. I mean, even after Michigan won the national championship, even if Harbaugh returns, I mean, you got Carson Beck returning, you got so many guys coming back, and it's Georgia, man. They're building a dynasty just like Alabama did.
I mean, you got to put them at number 1. They got an easy schedule next year. I mean, this is Georgia's the take.
So, all right, so we're running towards the hour mark here, Cowboy. Let's talk for just a moment about the NFL playoffs because they are heating up. We've had some surprise games here. I want to start off with one of yesterday's games. What is with the downfall of the Philadelphia
Oh
Eagles?
man,
Oh my
dude, it
goodness
was it
gracious!
was rough. I mean, after that thrilling Kansas City Chiefs game when it was the Eagles at the Chiefs, the Eagles beat them. Nick Schiano, whatever his name is, he comes out in the tunnel. You like that Kansas City? They went 1-7 since that game. 1-7. I mean, last night you had Dallas Goedert. He yelling at Jalen Hurts, 32-9. I mean, it was just Baker Mayfield. I saw something on Tip's Twitter. It's kind of true. Baker Mayfield, and I don't know if they're saying this is just called Baker Mayfield. I don't know. They said Baker Mayfield is what Johnny Manziel
Yes.
Johnny Manziel
Oh,
was going to be.
100%. It makes me wonder, just with the downfall of the Eagles, if there might be some locker room stuff going on. I mean, you saw, yelling at Hurts and stuff. Jalen Hurts also over the years, I'm starting to, I love him because he's, he did a bunch of great things for Alabama. Come, just show a smile every now and then, Jalen. Like, come on with this stupid. This, I was sitting in the press conference, and I don't really want to talk. It's like, come on, Jalen, come, talk, So I mean, yeah, Bucks just beat the crap out of the Eagles. Jason Kelsey retiring, yeah, and but another one that I want to talk about. I let a bet down on this one, but I did not win it. I bet on the Lions -3. They ended up beating the Rams. What was it?
24-23. Yeah,
24-23.
That was really the only good game of the round. Because most of them were blowouts.
Oh, the Texans just beat the crap out of the Browns. DeMeco Ryans and C.J. Stroud.
Let me tell you why. Alabama. Oh my gosh. Will Anderson with the sack. Christian Harris with a pick 6. I mean, it was truly an Alabama showing. I mean, John Mechie, he had a huge catch to start a drive. It was insane. Back-to-back pick 6s. 45-14. But the score don't show it. It was just like a beatdown. They take the air out of it.
And Alabama legend DeMeco Ryans leading it all. So you had that one. Packers and
the Cowboys, a huge
Packers
upset.
And Cowboys.
I never would have thought that. I never would have thought. 48-32. Score don't show it. Oh my gosh.
Oh, it was a beatdown. It was a beatdown.
Jordan Love. I don't know what the Packers are doing. They go from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love. I mean, this is the third quarterback, and dude, they blew them out. The Cowboys. I mean, they go back to the New York Yankees. I saw a thing. It said, man, I feel so bad for Cowboy fans. They lost Nick Saban. Yankees baseball don't start till I mean, Dak Prescott, he looked terrible. He kind of turned it up a little bit in the second half. But that first, throwing 2 interceptions, it was rough.
Yeah. One of the coldest games in NFL history, Chiefs and Dolphins. Poor Tua Tagovailoa. He cannot win a game above 45 degrees.
He might not just be that dude. But you see who was at the game? She was there. Thank God.
She was there, and that's why they won. Did you see? They were coming down the tunnel, and they were all singing one of her stupid songs.
Did he say?
Lindsay, please don't listen to this podcast.
She had on a custom jacket. Oh my gosh! But one more game. Yeah. One more game. The Bills, our Bills pick. We both predicted the Bills and the 49ers. Bills beat the crap out of the Steelers. It was pretty cool. Did you see how much snow was in the stands for that game?
That one, this whole winter storm has been insane. How cold is it right now in the Dot? I'm in Pensacola, Florida, and it's 27 degrees outside right now.
It is 29 here, and it's going to get a low when I leave for work tomorrow morning. It is going to be 20 degrees.
Whoo! I saw up in North Alabama, it got down the low today was 0.
They had snow in Jasper, my old hometown. They had snow in Jasper.
We get snow in Alabama maybe once every 3 or 4 years, so yeah, it's pretty wild. And it don't even get that cold when it snows.
No.
But back to football, that tons of snow. We got that lake effect snow there in Buffalo, just insane. You saw. People posting photos of them buying the beer at the Kansas City game, and freezing 2 seconds later turned into slush.
I'm just saying, like, look, I get the players got to be there. I get you're a diehard fan. There ain't no way in hell I'm going to that game. It's just ain't. It's just ain't.
No, I mean, maybe if you like bought the tickets like early for a heavy price, and like you may never get to go to a playoff game again.
Imagine that you're not that cold and you're in the nosebleeds. Like, I'm not trying to dog nobody that sits in the nosebleeds, but like you can't even see the game, and your like eyes are like you got frosticles coming out of your beard, and you can't drink nothing because it freezes instantaneous. I mean,
yeah, I mean, that's borderline dangerous to be out there. I mean, you can bundle up and bundle up and bundle up. You still gonna be cold, right?
You're still gonna be cold.
Yeah. So, do you want to touch real quickly on some SEC basketball before we get out of here?
Tennessee just whooped Florida. The final, Bama did beat Missouri. It kind of got a little dicey in there. Nate Oates, we're kicking off Arkansas, Texas A&M, Georgia, South Carolina, and then tomorrow we got Ole Miss at LSU, Auburn at Vandy. Now this Saturday we got some pretty big games on Saturday. Saturday we have Bama at Tennessee, we have Georgia at Kentucky. And probably the biggest game of the night, Ole Miss at Auburn.
Ole Miss and Auburn. How about the rise of Auburn? It really seems since Nate Oates and Bruce Pearl became head coaches of Alabama and Auburn, it seems like it's like a shift every year. One team does really good, and the other team does pretty good. Then the next year it's flip-flops, right? It seems like this is Auburn's year.
This is supposed to be Auburn's year. I mean, Alabama had it 21, Auburn had 22, Bama had 23. Auburn's going to have it this year.
And here we go. Next Wednesday, the first game of the Iron Bowl of basketball in Coleman Coliseum. I'm excited for that. That would be something if Alabama's offense can come out hot and beat that really, really good Auburn team. Okay, you have to admit they are great. They're
good.
Really good team.
Oh yeah. But
Alabama still, despite the defense, I will say defense is getting better. It's getting better. It's looking good in SEC play. But that offense is still the number one offense in the country.
I've been saying all year we had a tough gauntlet in non-conference. We just got to get to conference play. Just get to conference play. This is when me and John J-Dub we start hating each other. This is when the arguments start.
It's going to be a fun year continuing on in SEC basketball. I think some of the teams, we did an SEC basketball preview prior, couple months ago, and we threw some names out there. We thought A&M would be good. We thought Arkansas would be good, and they haven't come to fruition.
Nobody would have thought South Carolina and Ole Miss.
No. And Georgia's been doing pretty good.
Yeah.
So. But guys, I think that's it for episode 17. Real quickly, what is your? This is the question of the day. We've done 17 of these things. Like what we've done. I mean, we got to get our stuff up though, guys. We're about to be on number 20 here in a couple weeks. Come on, guys. We need some subscribers. We got to keep growing. We're hitting a little stalemate here. Yeah. Come on, please subscribe. We got to start at the beginning of every episode. We got to be like, guys, right off the bat, subscribe, get this thing going, share with your friends.
Leave suggestions in the comments. What you want to see from us.
Leave a comment. What do you guys think about the new Kalen DeBoer hire? Give me your record prediction. Drop it in the comments below. We would love to hear you out. Love to see what you got to say. But I think that's it for episode number 17, guys. Be sure to subscribe, follow us on Instagram, TikTok. We're going to post more on both of those. We promise we're just busy guys outside of this. So, everybody, heads up, play. Heads up, play. Heads up, play.
Yeah.